Hello and welcome. My name is Chad Kihm. I'm the CEO of GamerSpeak, and today I'm going to tell you about how you can increase your game's revenue and retention up to 30% in 6 months or less. So, I'm going to start with a few case studies, primarily in the mobile Forex strategy, mid to hardcore space, the mobile RPG, mid to softcore space, desktop or PC MOBA, and free-to-play titles in general with heavy live ops. These are all kind of our sweet spots. Anything with a lot of depth, a lot of live ops, it's pay to win. That kind of stuff is right in our wheelhouse. Let's take a look at the first game. This is Iron Throne Firstborn. We increased monthly revenue 30% or 300,000 per month, and retention 30% for Iron Throne, the Firstborn, in 6 months. Super awesome case study, really good results. We have the producer here that says at the bottom left, GamerSpeak's insights into our users contribute about 30% or 300,000 per month of our revenue and retention. Then we have the head of global business strategy, Ji-yoon. She says GamerSpeak's insights are a significant reason we see those stable revenue and ARPDAU numbers, and that is why we keep working with them. We've been working with these guys for over 2.5 years, maybe even close to 3 years now. This is another one of their games, the 7 Deadly Sins Grand Cross. We published 225 pages of strategy guides in 45 days for this game. Oh, and you can see down over here on the right the graph of the views, the global views climbing rapidly. We're easily over 3 million views now, and counting up. So then we have another game by Come To Us, Summoner's War. Our website for this one is summonerswar.co. We've got 30 million page views in the first year. I think we're on year 7 now. And we're the #1 resource online for Summoner's War Sky Arena. So contributed a lot to this game's success. This is the chart of the views for the first year of Summoner's War, the 30 million views. So our solution, GamerSpeak's service, is for a game with over 100K per month in revenue or more than 2 million in funding. If you want to create a game that makes over $1 million a month, but you're scared that the game will die at launch or never become profitable, we're for you. If you want your game to be #1 in its genre, if you want to make your first huge hit game that gives you all the capital and investment you'll ever need, if you want to be ahead of the curve of what your players want, but you're bogged down and frustrated with other projects, we're great for you. And if you're tired of getting bad App Store reviews and negative comments on your social media, then stick around and watch this webinar. So also, it's for game developers who want to implement changes to the game that increase revenue and improve retention, but you're facing consistent PR nightmares because you're releasing new content that doesn't resonate with players. It's a huge problem. If you want to make your players feel listened to and supported, but don't have time to answer all their questions and complaints, we've got strategies for that. And if you're looking for new ideas and strategies for your team that will help improve your KPIs so you can raise more money from VCs, but you aren't sure if it's a new technology that you need or if it's a new service that you need to find that value, we will help you figure that out. So this presentation is not for you if you're already satisfied with your internal community management, player feedback, and game KPIs. Good job. This is not for you if you don't want to work with a third party for actionable feedback and recommendations, or if you have MRR less than 100K per month or less than 2 million in funding. We're probably not within your budget. So some key points are you can achieve an increase of up to 30% in revenue or retention, in 6 months or less. However, there is a barrier of trust between you and your community that prevents you from getting authentic, actionable feedback that positively impacts your retention and revenue. It is possible to get access to this authentic, actionable feedback, but game developers use the wrong approach with their community. This leads to them or you feeling frustrated, feeling resentment and distrust towards your community, and ultimately kind of isolating away from them. GamerSpeak is the only company dedicated to solving this problem for game developers currently at the time of this presentation. So I want to get into my background to explain why I'm kind of uniquely positioned to solve this problem and how I got into solving this problem. I graduated from Cal Poly San Luis Obispo in California in 2015. I majored in industrial and manufacturing engineering. My freshman year, I founded APOC Apparel, which you can see me and some of my founders in the top right picture there wearing some of the clothes that we made. It was a clothing company, made tanks, t-shirts, hats, sweatshirts, and I only share that because it's how I got my entrepreneurial bug, even though I was an engineer. And when I graduated, so we did that for like 5 years. We sold thousands of different apparel. And my senior year, I decided to kind of change businesses and start a trusted super user site for a #1 top grossing strategy game, which ultimately led to an all expenses paid trip to Dubai by the game's biggest VIP. You can see a couple pictures of me down there in the bottom. That's me next to the tallest building in the world. And the guy in the red shirt was the whale who kind of paid for the whole trip for me and a couple of his buddies to come over. And so what happened there was I was playing this top grossing strategy game. A bunch of people in my alliance were losing $1,000, $1,500 every time they lost a battle. It was really crazy. It was the first kind of, first foray into a pay to win game. And as a result of that, they were quitting the game. So I said, okay, I'm going to get together with a bunch of VIP players, a bunch of top spenders, find out all the best strategies, post them on a website, and that way my alliance, I don't have to help people one-on-one anymore, but I can help a whole bunch of people. And what that led to was I had all the biggest VIPs in the game reaching out to me saying, hey, like I want to be a part of this, like come join my team, tell us what we should do, what we should spend money on, and what we shouldn't. And that was when I realized, wow, like this is a huge opportunity where I'm kind of in with this really important circle of players that is very important to the developer's revenue, a game developer's revenue. And while I was in that circle, they were saying, hey, the developer is releasing this feature, this content. I don't want that content. I mean, I'm happy to spend money on the game, but not on something like that. And so I was like, oh, there's another opportunity right there. And so in 2015, I founded GamerSpeak, and I kind of connect the players and the game developers together. So, there's two parts of the puzzle. We're educating the players and we're bringing value to them in the form of content. We're getting to know them, and then what happens is we know exactly what they want to spend money on, and that's what's allowed us to achieve 100% client retention rate since we founded the company. So we work with some of the top game developers in the world, and 7 of our clients' games have reached over $1 billion in revenue. This is the traffic from the #1 top grossing strategy game of the time. You can see that in the first 6 months, we had 350,000 users, 2.8 million page views. Pretty incredible. I'd never built a website before. I'd never written content. It was super basic, but the value and the utility for the players was so powerful that everyone loved it. These are some of the games that we've worked with, and while we work on these games, we've actually, when I talked about those insights that I have from the VIP players that we give to the developer. So you can see here this chart every quarter is one bar, and so in Q1 we delivered 122 of our recommendations were actually implemented into the game. This is a chart of only recommendations that were implemented. So in Q4, 210, really incredible number. Another way to look at our results. So now you're wondering, how does this work? And I'm going to get into that. There's 6 steps to increase your game's revenue and retention by 30% in 6 months or less. So let's move this. Number 1, build a community hub and sponsor super users to publish high quality strategy guides. So the example here is the 7 Deadly Sins Grand Cross. We published 225 pages of strategy guides in 45 days. and we achieved over 2.4 million page views in 12 months. This content had really great resonance with players. So the old way of creating content for players is you launch a forum for the game where you hope players will write, update, and disseminate strategy guides on a regular basis. You hope that the player base will create a wiki, website, or forum with high quality content. It's the old way of doing it. And the old result is that content on forums becomes outdated quickly, signaling that the game is dying. You can look over here in the picture on the right and you'll see that all these posts are from 2019 by the developer where they wrote some game guides. Now it's 2021, the game is still pretty popular. If I went on that forum and I saw the latest content is only from 2019, I'd be like, this game's dying. I don't think I want to play this game. I'm going to go find something else. So outdated content does not give readers the confidence they are looking for to be competitive and learn. Players who have created a fan site ultimately realize they can't make any money with it, so they stop creating new content or abandon the site within 4 to 6 months. I've seen this happen countless times, and it always takes developers by surprise. In the beginning, they think, oh, we're crushing it. We have a great game. We got players making content. And then 6 months later, no one's doing it anymore, and they start to scramble. Fan communities sometimes will start promoting another game. The one game will die and they'll start promoting another game. And so if you don't support that, that community, it's going to go away. So last point here is players never have a good source of information, so they quit to find another game that does. This is really important. I mean, if you're going to play a game, you want content related to the latest meta, so you feel confident that you can get to a position where you're winning on a regular basis and you're excited to invest in the game financially with your time as well. So the new way, build a community hub and sponsor super users to publish high quality strategy guides. Over here on the right is a picture of a bunch of our super users that we work with that play various games. They spend their own money on these games and they're really good at them. So we support them with a team of people for editing, graphic design, SEO, optimization, and marketing so that the super user only needs to focus on getting their insight on paper. The new result here is that you now have consistent new strategy guide content that is always up to date. And then you have high quality super user content that will give your players confidence to invest a lot of time and money into your game and actually be successful. This super user knowledge can now be scaled. Your players will adopt new content more quickly. Great content will encourage customer loyalty because other games don't have it. Then lastly, gameplay guides will deflect gameplay-related customer support tickets and improve App Store reviews. So this is one of our super users over here saying, I don't have to answer the same questions 10 to 20 times a day anymore. I can just write a guide and link it to the people who ask me how to do something. That is like one of the main reasons I started creating content to begin with for that top grossing strategy game right before I started GamerSpeak. So obnoxious to be influential and have to answer the same question every day. So takeaway here, nurturing and promoting super user content will guarantee consistent strategy guide content that is always up to date. Thus, player engagement with newly released content will be higher and faster, which increases retention and revenue. Now I got some evidence here. I have a research report from Facebook Gaming that says the type of information players want the most from developers is tips, tricks, and strategies. This is a picture of the report, and at the top you'll see in green information strategy players want to receive from mobile game developers. And the number one there is, if all across the board in US, UK, Japan, and South Korea, it's all tips, tricks, and strategies all the way down. Then the next priority is upcoming in-game events. The next priority is upcoming updates or game content releases, which is usually what developers put all their focus on and all their investment on, as well as questions and answers, and finally the ability to influence and provide feedback on the game's design, which none of those are priority. Priority is tips, tricks, and strategies. So interestingly enough, the report also talks about all different genres of games. At the top in blue, you can see information puzzle players want to receive from mobile game developers. Even puzzle players want tips, tricks, and strategies the most. Pretty much the same priorities across all genres. So more evidence here is we got two screenshots from players in our community saying on the left, you're a huge asset to many. When Googling your game, it's your info everyone's reading. And then we got someone over here on the right saying, does it make sense to invest in all 7 variations of this gear, or is there another way to think about it, really? And someone else in the community responds, the articles on the website do a very good job of describing gear as it is introduced, like heroes, troop level, and other capabilities as the game continues to evolve. So you can tell, this player is recommending this, the person asking the question to go to the website, read the content, and understand, learn the answer to his question. So he can do all his digging there. If the website didn't exist, then he would have no place to do his digging. A couple other testimonials here. I did the survey and shared it in my guild chat. By the way, thank you for all the helpful articles you write all the time. They have been a lifeline for my guild at times. The least we can do is answer the survey. So it's a lifeline for her guild at times. Awesome. And then someone over here on the right saying, thank you for all your hard work and effort. I know you guys spend a lot of time on the guides. They are such a big help. Half of Japan and Okinawa loves you to bits right now. We love getting these. It fuels us. Last piece of evidence here, which is really unique and just it's from one of the most influential and speakers in community management, and he ran this test. And here's what he says: forming, growing, and maintaining brand communities can be expensive endeavors. To understand if the cost is worth it, the author convinced a client to hide their community for 4 months. By doing this, the author discovered it was 72% cheaper for the client to answer a question via the community than support. And so you might be thinking like, yeah, that's why I have a forum, or that's why we want to have, a forum for our title. However, like I said, at some point the forum is going to start to die down and there's going to be no people creating content there. So you really need something consistent. To continue on, they also found that during the experiment, when the vast majority of customers turned to customer service instead of the community, the satisfaction scores of customers plummeted to one of the lowest levels on record. So don't leave player questions to customer support either. Try to get that stuff online. Should I build an official community or a super user-led community? It's important to have an official community. We recommend at least an official Discord for communicating with your players from a promotional standpoint or from a feedback standpoint, and to have a direct a channel that's made for that. Facebook is not made for communication. It's more made for promotional. It's made for advertising, and you can have that too, but just recognize that Facebook is for those uses. However, you still want a super user-led community because there's going to be no bias there. There's going to be authentic conversation there. There's going to be players are going to be able to trust the content wholeheartedly that exists in those super user-led communities. That's why you still want them. So the second step, train a group of super users to gather feedback and actionable recommendations. Here's an example. We've got a line room with 500 plus super users. We got an average of 19 actionable feedback reports from super users implemented a month for a cost savings of $32,000 per month. So what we have a line room, and in that line room, there's a whole bunch of really dedicated players. They're having a lot of authentic and non-biased conversation, which leads to a ton of actionable feedback reports and ultimately to a cost savings of an estimated $32,000 per month. Okay, this is another example of training super users to gather feedback and actionable recommendations. This is a report that we typically send our clients. And at the bottom right, you can see we track what was player sentiment towards the implementations. This means that we're looking at three things. Was the sentiment after our recommendation positive? Was it neutral or was it negative? And the vast majority of the time it was positive. So that's 74 times out of 86 times it was positive. The old way of training a group of super users to gather feedback, really the old way of getting feedback kind of, is to recruit VIPs to join a focus group to give you feedback via a call, Discord room, or email on a volunteer basis. The old result is that many of the players you invite don't even want to participate, which is really frustrating because you spend all this time finding somebody that you want in the group and they say, nah, I don't have the time, I'm not interested, I don't want to talk to you. The second is the VIPs in the group are not trained on how to give good feedback, so you end up feeling like the group is a waste of time. Feedback from the VIPs is often only money motivated or self-centered. You worry about telling the VIPs something that will slow down or stop their spending behavior, so it's hard to really explore ideas with them and share, what you're thinking about because you're worried they're gonna, maybe say, "Oh, I'm gonna wait and see what happens when this thing drops or what it looks like. I'm not gonna buy what's in the game now." And then lastly, two more things. You're concerned about VIPs leaking information because they haven't signed an NDA, and then you have a lack of time to manage the group, and it becomes underutilized. I take all these examples from game developers and community managers that I've talked to directly, and these are the things they say. So the new way to do it: choose a handful of super users that are very active and knowledgeable about your game and have relationships with lots of VIPs instead of recruiting the VIPs themselves to a focus group. Spend 40 hours training each of them in how to discover, capture, and relay actionable feedback that will make your game more engaging. So don't just reach out to these guys and say, hey, you want to join this feedback group? Great. Send me feedback whenever you have it. No, take it seriously. Train these people. Invest time into a group and know that you're going to get your return because they're going to be in that group for 3 years. Proactively share your plans. By the way, the 3 years is not ridiculous. We have many people on our team who have been super users consulting with developers for 3 years plus. Third bullet, proactively share your plans with the super users and get their input about how it will affect their friends' behavior before releasing a new feature to the whole game. So you're not talking directly to the VIPs anymore. You're talking to the friends of the VIPs and you're saying, what do your friends think? Because your friends are talking to you all the time, telling you what they want and don't want. The new result is that you're going to feel confident that the information you discuss is secure and will not be leaked. It's such a relief to feel that. Second, you're going to have trusted and motivated super users that want to give you actionable recommendations for improving the engagement of their friends and themselves. Third, you can safely explore ideas for improving VIP engagement without the risk of scaring them, and you'll get increased revenue and retention because the new content is actually what VIPs want. Finally, you'll avoid poor App Store reviews about new content being greedy, which is what we see so often. Okay, so the takeaway from this is that getting feedback and recommendations from a small group of very active and knowledgeable super users will take much less time and effort to manage and get you the type of actionable feedback you're looking for. Even though the feedback group is small, they're in touch with thousands of other players, so they know what players of many different play styles want. You can see below that the game developers are implementing more and more actionable feedback from a small group of super users because they're seeing positive return on investment. I showed you this chart earlier, and you can see that every quarter our partners are implementing more of our recommendations. Also on the chart on the right, you can see that it says, how similar were GamerSpeak recommendations to the implementations in the game? And at the top, you can see that 39 were exactly the same, and that 6 were slightly different. It's good ratio, really good ratio. Now, this is the common questions we get. How do you find super users? The way that we find super users can be various different ways, but typically when we work with the game, it's right before their global launch. We get everything ready for global launch. And we use some internal super users that we already have to get the community started. Then we look very carefully, and we, as fast as possible, find the players that are really engaging in the community. They're helpful, they're positive, they're smart, and then we recruit those people to now run the community, because those are native players of the game or native super users. If the game is already live and we're working with the client, then we will look in the communities that exist for the game. We find the leaders of the community, where we find people that really stand out to us and that we think we can trust, and then we begin to interview them. And some of the things that we're looking for, on the left over here, there's a bunch of different types of community members, and on the right are the qualities or the character traits that we're looking for, primarily encouraging people, trustworthy people, and knowledgeable people. So I should just quickly say, how do we train them? Well, we train them with our internal team that trains them on all various types of things in terms of how to provide feedback, how to write content, how to moderate the community, being professional, communicating with developers, all these kinds of things. We will train them and spend about 40 hours, which I recommended on a previous slide. Well, number 3. This is the third step to achieving an increase in monthly revenue and retention of 30% in 6 months or less. So you want to collect authentic and urgent feedback via a super user-led Discord. And I have some examples here. These are some recommendations that we've given and how the developer implemented them. Let's just take a look at the second one. So there was new VIP added to the game, and instant VIP was not in the packs, and so this was a pretty common thing for the developer to include in packs when they release VIP, but they had forgotten, and so it was pointed out in the community, or it was recognized by one of our super users, and they said add instant VIP to packs so players can use the new type of VIP. And then I believe it was within a day or two that instant VIP was added back into packs, and the exact, just like we recommended, and players are happy that they can now use that instant VIP item. Now, the first example was returning players need gift mode and do not have it available in packs. And so the client had done a player appreciation week, and there's a bunch of new players or old players coming back into the game that needed and wanted gift mode, but it wasn't available. So instead of actually incorporating in packs like we recommended, the client included gift mode during a very popular event, and it allowed players who returned to not miss out on that feature. So, and there's a bunch of examples here, and there's a whole bunch more examples on our website. The old way of getting this is to launch an official Facebook group, Twitter page, or Discord server, or forum for the game, and hope that this type of feedback will show up there. Your CM will spend hours copy-pasting automated replies to negative comments and filtering and compiling reports that aren't even read by the product or design team. And the reason that these reports aren't read by the product or design team is because usually the feedback is not specific enough to be actionable and to be something that those designers or product leads want to even spend their time reading. So the old result is that players don't share authentic feedback because they think the developer is greedy, and they become self-centered in their feedback. The developers get discouraged, and I think it's because they feel like the developers are being self-centered, so then they want to be self-centered. The developers get discouraged and decide to make decisions in a vacuum. Those who do not submit, those who do submit ideas don't usually think about a realistic solution. On forums, players rarely get their questions answered, and if they do, it's days later or it's automated, and an automated response is so frustrating. All of this leads to a high level of churn because new content is not what players are looking for. This is the new way. You leverage a handful of super users to facilitate tactical conversations in the community that will help you achieve your business goals. You incentivize the super users to collect, filter critical feedback and foster a friendly environment for everyone. So the super users are really in touch with what's going on in the community. And because they're talking to you, they're in touch with what your goals are. So then they go into the community and they facilitate strategic conversations that will help you achieve your business goals while keeping it a friendly environment and an authentic environment where there's no bias. This picture over here, this picture over here is someone basically saying, you know, I just had a fantastic idea you guys are gonna hate. They need to make unlimited thank you packs for every big pack they release. This would actually make more money, especially with the super spenders. They shouldn't cut off thank you packs at 3 or 4. It should be unlimited. And so what's happening here is like the developer will occasionally have a style of in-app purchase that allows you to buy a series of them that progressively get better. And it stops after about 3 or 4. But a lot of this guy's spender friends, he says, the biggest complaint I hear from my super spender friends is that after they buy the streak of packs, they get offered garbage. So maybe they start to hit pack 5 or 6 and it's no longer good anymore. And this is really good feedback because the developer can now consider maybe 5, maybe 6, or maybe they can consider more types of in-app purchases that function like this. And so the super user is going to look at this and say, you know, what they think the developer should do as a result of this feedback. Now, the new result is that the Superuser-Led Discord server attracts the best players and creates an authentic, engaged community. Players with questions or social tendencies get a lot of value from the super users. Players will validate their issues and ideas with the super users before they go to an official channel to talk about them, which means the super users get access to issues and insights before you do. This is kind of the same thing as if like you're working at your office, you and your coworkers have some thoughts, or you have some thoughts and you want to share them with your coworkers before you share them with your boss because you want to validate that your idea or your issue is legitimate and you're not just being dramatic or something like that. That's kind of what happens in these communities. And so then as soon as that topic is brought up, the super user can relay it immediately to the developer and not waste any time. Now here's the takeaway for this section, for this step. Collecting feedback from forums is no longer a viable solution. Training super users to provide detailed, authentic sentiment increases the resonance of new content with existing players, thus increasing their session length, retention, and LTV. This sad example is Payday, and right from Supercell. Supercell's got 5 super big games, and this chart is actually a combined chart of new posts from the only 2 forums that Supercell has active, and that's Heyday and Clash of Clans. The new posts since 2018 are declining rapidly, down from 250,000 a day to only a few thousand a day for both games. And so needless to say, they're shutting down Heyday, and ultimately they said they will be shutting down Clash of Clans forum as well, moving them to Reddit. This quote is from Kotaku. It says, for the longest time, Sony has run its own official message board, a place where PlayStation owners could get together, hang out, argue pointlessly, and most importantly, troubleshoot. But on February 27th, that board will be shutting down. I think this was just a few years ago. PlayStation is no longer investing in forums either. More proof here is kind of this picture I showed you earlier. What was player sentiment towards the implementations? It's very positive. When you collect feedback this way and you implement it, you're going to have very positive sentiment from your players. And by this way, I mean from a super user-led Discord. Step 4. All right, here we go. Step 4 of 6. Set up urgent reporting for your super users. Okay? Now, you want to give them a special channel to report urgent things directly to the people who can look at it and change it like within minutes, within an hour. That's what you want. So, really talking urgent here, and we're talking this can be an urgent sentiment, like, for example, hey, this event came out, the reward structure is super lame, or it's way too difficult for the intended audience. We suggest you change it. Or there's a whale who encountered a problem and they're about to quit the game because they've been going back and forth with their VIP customer service agent who doesn't know anything about the game for a week and a half, and they're fed up and they're going to quit. Well, you got an urgent report with all the details, and it's going to go to somebody not on the customer support team or somebody very high up that can actually understand what's going on and help that VIP. So that's what the two examples are here, and you can pause to read those. I will minimize my video for a second here so you could pause if you want to. Okay. The old way of doing this is to wait for enough customer support tickets about a specific bug before validating it or looking into it, right? Second, loosely monitor social channels for any big outbursts about a major issue. Third, let VIP issues be handled exclusively through customer support, as opposed to sometimes getting the design team involved or a product team involved that might understand the issue that whale encountered. Because a lot of times a whale is experiencing new content at a pace that 99.999% of your players are not. And so they're encountering these issues that most people are not. And it's difficult for the customer support agent to understand that. The old result, bugs are identified slowly. Many players are affected by a bug. Many players are able to exploit a bug. You have to go back and forth with a few players over hours or days to understand the full extent of a bug. Or someone on your QA team spends 48 hours, maybe even more, investigating the full extent of a bug. The new way. This is what we recommend. Give your trained super users special access to an urgent report form, like I showed you a few slides ago. They can send in any type of urgent report. Players in your super user-led Discord are immediately vocal about the full scope and severity of a bug. The players verify it with the super users. So, right, you're playing a game, you experience this problem. Maybe you go on Reddit or you go on a Discord and you say, hey guys, is this a problem? Or am I just being stupid? Or do I not understand how the game works? And then somebody like the moderator or super user or somebody who's very helpful comes in and says, no, actually, that does sound like an issue. Tell us more about it. How did you experience that? What's the full extent of it, right? And then you have this whole conversation, a bunch of people jumping in, learning about the problem. Then once the super user feels like they have all the details, they send it in via a report. So the new result is that you receive urgent live ops sentiment reports about event structure, event rewards, and in-app purchase reports from trusted super users. So, you're just receiving urgent reports from all sorts of things. You immediately understand the scope and severity of an issue. You receive the reproducible steps. You receive recommendations on how to fix it or how to compensate players. You receive also urgent reports about VIP players, which is a huge percent of revenue, right? And then once the VIPs like really quits the game, it's really hard to get them back. So we probably solve a handful or so of VIP. We prevent a handful or so of VIPs from quitting every month, and it makes a huge difference because they're spending 10K a month, something like that. The super users also hear about serious bugs that some players may be trying to keep secret. Absolutely, that happens. Okay, so what's the takeaway for setting up urgent reporting for your super users? Leverage trained super users for reporting urgent issues can speed up how fast you identify the scope and severity of issues by 3 days. It actually comes from a quote from one of our clients that says, once we implemented this, we started learning about issues 3 days ahead of time. And why that happened? It's because the customer support was going back and forth with players trying to figure out for 3 days what the real issue was. And then finally, it was sent to the product team or the engineering team 3 days later. And so when we were just sent them the full scope, it sped everything up by 3 days. Here are some example reports. These are bug reports, and you can see we include the title of the issue, the priority 1, 2, or 3. In this case, on the left, we have a priority 3 issue, which means it's not game breaking or even that big of an issue, but it should be fixed as soon as possible. And in this case, a player from a region told the super user that their raid boss was dropping items roughly 2 levels lower than what was advertised in the blog, which would result in low engagement in that event. Now on the right, we have a priority 1 issue where this is a high severity issue and it's breaking the whole game. And what happened was a new release, the stats were incorrect. Probably there was an extra 0 or 2, and it caused everyone to get zeroed or killed, when they got attacked. And basically the battle reports were really broken. So these are the kinds of reports you should expect to get and want to get. And these are the two that I showed earlier that I said you could pause and check these out, but these are more of like sentiment reports about an event or a whale report that was experiencing a customer service issue. So the 5th step to achieving the goal of an increase in retention and revenue of 30% in 6 months or less is to have super users write sentiment reports that answer KPI-specific questions. So let's look at KPI-specific questions for 4X games. These questions are specifically related to events. And we had this right below the word events. It says the type of feedback that increases engagement and revenue for this is. And we talk with game designers, product teams, whatever, to make sure that the way that we, all these questions that we're asking are in line with what they think that they need as far as information from the community, from the players to increase engagement and revenue. So we confirm that when looking at event structure, when we give feedback on event structure, or the super user does, we want to cover how was the structure of the event received? Do players find the event task interesting? What type of actions or tasks would players find interesting to do in the future? Okay. Then player reception, also on events. Did players enjoy the event? What did they like and dislike about it? Were players actively participating or only doing enough to hit rewards and then quitting? Event length / duration. How was the event length? Was it too long or too short? Were players able to complete the event in time to receive the rewards? And so on and so on and so on. And you can actually download a full, this thing goes like 5 pages long on all these different types of categories within the game. You can download this full thing on our website for 4X games. All right, let's see. So the old way of doing things. You send out surveys to your players once a month. Now, you're going to get inherent bias and inauthentic responses. You can create the survey, or creating the survey can take a lot of time to curate and get approved by everyone. You can also spend a lot of time delivering the surveys in a segmented fashion, and that could take time from your developers, producing new features or new content. And then surveys are only pretty decent for quantitative feedback, but not for qualitative feedback. Here's a survey that we liked from one of our customers. It was great from a quantitative standpoint. What content do you enjoy the most? And they made it fun, and they shared the results with the players, and the players really appreciated it, and they actually ended up talking about the results and what they were going to do about it. So if you are going to do surveys, do that. But this is generally speaking the old way, and it doesn't work for qualitative feedback. So what happens is your players have inherent bias, which results in inauthentic responses. The results come in slowly and take a long time to digest. You don't get the kind of actionable feedback that I've been showing you. And players participate for the rewards and rush to the survey. The data can be noisy, right? Now, the new way of doing things is you train your super users, your handful, to learn KPI-specific questions. Your design team meets with the super users to tell them the KPI-specific questions to ask the community. The super user introduces these questions to the community on a daily basis, casually, within conversation. The super user provides actionable feedback that addresses the questions from the design team. So, the new result is that you will receive sentiment reports from your super users that are guaranteed to have actionable learnings for your development team. Your development team will read these reports because they helped curate the formatting, the questions, and so it's going to incorporate exactly what they want. Also, the people filling it out are so in touch with the game that the development team is going to be like, this is amazing. These people know the game more than we do because they play the game more than we do. They spend more money on the game than we do. Your player satisfaction will increase. They'll tell their friends about how they play a game where the developer is actually listening. Third, the super users will send you detailed, authentic sentiment reports that you rely on every week to guide the production of your game. The super users can reflect the opinions of thousands of other players who play various play styles. You will spend way less time managing your feedback process. No curating big surveys, getting approved by everyone, reading thousands of responses. None of that. The takeaway here, a small group of super users who are trained to answer KPI-specific questions can provide more actionable feedback than all of your surveys. And you really want this actionable feedback, right? You want something that's like, okay, we can do this. This feedback is key to achieving an increase of 30% to your retention and revenue because the development team can be confident the feedback they receive will move the needle. And that's why you're seeing our partners implementing more and more and more feedback every quarter. They're getting more and more confident and seeing that it really does work. An online survey, here's some evidence of this point. Okay, an online survey project can take anywhere from 2 days to 2 to 4 weeks to complete. The difference in the time needed to complete the project depends on the research methodology and deliverables. There's just, a time estimate. From what I've heard, it's more along the lines of weeks to get a survey approved and together, something that the development team feels like answers all their questions. And then tell me I'm wrong with this. You get the results back and you realize we missed a question, or we didn't ask the question the way we wanted to. And then you just feel defeated, right? And you don't want to do a survey ever again. And yeah, so not the right method. Here's a little snippet of a sentiment report. And I want to show you this because This is what our clients get. An example of part of one. So we got a new releases section here. We're talking about the Mag Morrigan and Kaloa's moving castle from Iron Throne Firstborn. Okay. The sentiment here was positive, and the AH is just the initials of the super user who wrote this. Now, the explanation for why it's positive is that players like the stats on the new Mag Morrigan pet. It's even better now that you released the enhanced bonus. Everyone went nuts for Kaloa's moving castle. They absolutely loved the new skin. The low spender feedback was that all players, but especially the low spenders, were really happy to be able to earn the new pet in the season event, as opposed to having to spend a bunch of money for it. Then at the bottom here, actionable recommendations. This super user is saying, give more opportunities for players to earn Mag Morrigan and materials for the new skin. Players really like castle skins. Keep these coming out frequently with associated boosts and make sure there's still a way to earn the older ones as well. This is such good actionable recommendation. So there's a pace that developers are currently releasing castle skins. And she's saying, you could probably release at a little bit of a faster pace with associated boosts and have a way to earn, with time instead of maybe with money, some of the older ones. And I think she's saying this would increase player engagement. And this is really, really useful for the developers to be able to know, okay, this super user who's talking to thousands of players, spends their own money on the game, plays 3 hours a day. This is someone I can trust, and I can now go back to my team and I can know that if we invest time into doing this, we are going to see returns in the form of engagement and revenue. So this is another example of feedback on this Encore 3rd anniversary mob event. The feedback was positive from 2 super users, KH and AH, mixed from KR. And they all write their reasoning for the explanation as to why they gave their review, and then they have actionable recommendations down at the bottom. Let's just take a look at some of these bullets for actionable recommendations. Create separate ways to get the chests so players can focus on the ones that are most meaningful to them. Because in these types of games, players have a specific strategy, right? There's a couple different metas. And so it's like, hey, maybe if you separate these chests somehow, then players who are focusing on one meta will really engage with this event more, because it's not like they're gonna, if they did 20 actions, they might only get 4 or 5 of the chests that they actually want to use with their account. It's stuff like that. And you guys can pause the screen and read some more of this, but I'll move on. There's also a full report, like 20 pages of this report on our website that you can download for free. Now, the 6th step to achieving our goal of increasing revenue and retention by 30% in 6 months or less is get on a video call with your super users once a month. It's a huge difference. So this quote is from the head of global business strategy at Netmarble FNC. She says, it's a huge difference between internal and external sentiment reports. When we look at it through the eyes of users and developers. So through the eyes of a developer, it's always different in some way from the point of view of a user. It is important for us as developers to look at the game through the eyes of users, somebody else who is not us. And so she's, expressing her appreciation for talking with the super users on the phone and saying that it really gives her perspective, the user perspective that she's looking for. The old way of doing this would be to communicate with players via customer support when they write in with an idea. Communicate with the focus group via Discord every time you release new content. Set up player interviews in exchange for a gift card. The old result is that you'll get limited detail in the feedback you receive. It's difficult to understand the true severity of the problem or the true conviction of an idea. And it feels like there's a barrier or a lack of trust and respect between your team and the focus group or the player you're interviewing. So the new way is to set up a video call with your trained super users once a month. Go over more complicated issues or ideas during this time to ensure you find the best path for a positive outcome. The new result is that you will build a strong bond of trust with your super user group that will ultimately be reflected in their leadership within the community. This means like if you treat them like a part of your team and you respect them and you communicate with them well, compliment them, show them appreciation, all that's going to reflect in them being very encouraging to the other players in your community because they're going to reflect confidence in the development team. And your leaders in the community, you want reflecting a lot of confidence in the development team, no doubt. They will try, so next point, they will try extra hard to provide critical details, actionable recommendations, and an honest representation of the severity of issues. When you're on the phone call, it's easier for them to, express themselves with body language or tonality or anger even. I mean, that's fine too. So you'll get a much better representation than somebody who's just typing, right? And a lot of times when people are typing, you're like, I can't really tell exactly how this person feels. Or it seems exaggerated, but I'm not sure. But on the call, you'll know exactly the severity. Third bullet, you will have more confidence in your resolution plans and they will be more effective. Your super users will feel as if they are a part of your team. They will feel invested in the game's success. Okay, the takeaway here is that setting up regular video calls with your super users will create a special bond of trust and advocacy between you and them that is so important for receiving trustworthy, actionable feedback. Some evidence here, without going into all the detail here, let's just take a look at like a one-on-one interview. This is in comparison to like a traditional focus group or an online focus group. The one-on-one interview is ideal for high touch target or time starved professionals. And so a super user often doesn't have a ton of time, especially in a pay to win game, because they're usually somebody who's got more money than time investing that money in the game instead of investing time in the game. So it's also easier to observe environment and nonverbal cues. The environment can inspire like recall and probing. In other words, like the super user can be like reflective and they can recall things better. So we recommend a kind of a many on many interview actually, where a team from like a designer, product guy, CS guy, sales team, event team, they are all talking with a group of super users is what we recommend. As opposed to some of these other methods that are less effective for that style of getting qualitative feedback really. So let's take another look at this research report. So this is, I think, from that same company, and they in the article they say our moderators reflected that participants are more relaxed in their own homes and are thus more involved in the focus group discussion or the many on many phone call. We feel that this has resulted in deeper content and substance from each focus group. Virtual focus groups are a promising alternative to in-person focus groups. In our experience, virtual groups are feasible and provide substantial data for qualitative research. That's a relief, right? I don't know if somebody's pressuring you to bring players into the office and try to have an in-person group, but this research from people who do focus groups all the time is saying that virtual groups are feasible and provide substantial data for qualitative research. So kind of like in summary, all you need to do is build a community hub and sponsor super users to publish high quality strategy guides. Then train a group of super users to capture actionable feedback and provide recommendations. Then collect ideas and issues using a super user-led Discord. Set up urgent reporting for your super users. Gather actionable feedback that directly improves KPIs using KPI-specific questions. And finally, get on a video call with your super users once a month. And if you do these things, you can get an increase of 15 to 30% in retention and revenue in 6 months or less. So, if you want to do this yourself, there's 3 methods to do it yourself. You can create a forum or a website. So, where you hope players will write guides on a regular basis and answer each other's questions. However, a strategy guide website is expensive to create and maintain. You have to write a lot of content to get the website started and keep it updated. The players have low incentive to post content on forums if you're going to use a forum. Content on forums is quickly outdated, like we discussed, and forums can often become negative. So if you're going to do a website, you're probably going to hire an agency to create a website and maintain it. But even if you do build it internally, you're probably looking at somewhat similar costs. And you might not have internal people who are experienced in all of the facets of a successful content site with SEO and navigation and responsivity and design. Either way, you're looking at 20 to 25K plus for the website, maybe about $750 per month in maintenance. Your community manager will spend time writing and updating old content, maybe $2,300 per month. Maybe about 20 plus hours a week is what that's reflected as. The time for your community manager to set up the forum, if you're going to go with that approach, probably is about 2 months. And if you haven't hired one already, you're probably going to take 3 to 6 months to find one that's qualified. I've talked to many companies that have been looking for longer than 6 months and can't find a qualified community manager. Then the time to recruit and train moderators, gather feedback, and engage with the players on the forum is going to be about 50% of a community manager's salary. That's probably going to cost you at least $60,000 or more a year. The second step to doing it yourself would be gather feedback, bugs, and VIP issues from social media and customer support. So your community manager can post content on social media and try gathering player feedback, bugs, and VIP issues from the comments. However, you will receive very little engagement and very little useful feedback from the comments. Your churn will spike because the feedback you get won't be good and the live ops of your game will be poor. And this will also result in you losing VIPs. Partially because of the poor live ops and partially because VIP issues will not properly be discovered or solved via normal customer support channels or social media. So the costs are that, again, if you haven't hired a community manager, it's probably going to take you 3 to 6 months to find one. You might already be looking for one. Time to recruit and train moderators, gather feedback, and engage with players on the forum or social media is about the same amount of time. So maybe the CM is spending half their time on social media, half their time on the forum. Sort of what I've seen. And they're going to cost about $60K a year, at least. And the third is that your QA and customer service team will spend hours every month testing and verifying these bugs from the various platforms. And in the sense that, a lot of this time could be avoided, really, the testing and verifying. So the third step to achieving this on your own, your CM could recruit and manage a VIP focus group and to gather feedback and recommendations yourself. However, you will spend a lot of time recruiting and managing VIPs that really may or may not even want to be a part of this. A lot of times they don't want to be a part of it. They're too busy. You'll have fear about VIPs leaking information and slowing down spending. So to get real engagement in a focus group, you have to give and take. You have to be able to give some communication, some information to them, have conversation. And if not, they're not going to engage. And so then if you are sharing things, you might be worried that you're leaking information and it might affect their spending behavior and it'll feel risky. So third point is your feedback is the feedback you get will often be self-centered because it'll be in a biased channel. And then fourth, creating, segmenting, sending, and analyzing and interviewing for surveys is very time intensive. So let's just look at the cost real quick from these. For your community manager to create a plan and process for the focus group, it's probably going to cost about $4,600. I think that's like 40 hours of community manager time. Your community manager will spend about 16 weeks working 15 hours a week, finding, recruiting, and re-recruiting members for the group. Okay, so that's what the 4,600 is. Yeah, it'll take like 4 months for them to kind of get all this going and working well. It'll take about 20 hours of your community manager's time meeting with the focus group and managing them per month, right? 20 hours per month at least. Your community manager will spend about 47 hours a month segmenting and creating profiles, getting in touch with players, interviewing players, analyzing interviews, and paying participants with gift cards. This is like a user research position like that we see pretty common, or it could be done by a community manager. But like, this step it is really expensive and really time consuming, and it's just it's oftentimes not even really the it can be hard to find the players you're really looking for as well, and doing all this segmenting was going to take some development power. It's so much legwork. There's easier ways to do it. So, or let's get to the easier ways. Or you can use GamerSpeak. We create player-focused strategy guide websites and train super users to write incredible content for your game based on questions that players ask in the community. So we're making sure the content aligns with the questions being asked in the community and they're relevant. You will have core gameplay guides and a finished website up and running in 45 days or less for a fraction of the cost. Everything that we've talked about today, the 6 steps, you can have in 45 days or less. Usually it's 30. We also train super users to gather feedback, filter the feedback, and send it directly to you in an easy-to-read edited report. These reports include specific, actionable feedback that your game design team can act on immediately. Okay, to continue, we will recruit a group of super users who you can communicate with to safely explore ideas for improving VIP engagement without the risk of talking to your VIPs directly. The super users are trustworthy and motivated to give you actionable recommendations for improving the engagement of their friends and themselves. We have perfected all of those processes so you will get actionable feedback from qualified and trained super users within 30 days. You will be able to talk to these super users once a month on a video call to dive deep into challenging topics that you need to resolve for the long-term health of your game. You will get urgent reporting from trusted super users. The reports cover urgent live ops sentiment about things like event structure, event rewards, limited time in-app purchases, as well as urgent bug reports and urgent VIP issues. You will immediately understand the severity. It's a lot of talking. Okay. You will immediately understand the severity of the issue, the steps to reproduce it, and how to resolve it. Boom. All right. Again, this is for game developers who want to increase their retention and revenue but are struggling to get high quality, actionable feedback they can implement from their players. Let's get into some detailed case studies. In the beginning of the presentation, I briefly ran through them. You're probably like, whoa, spend more time on those. So I'm actually going to go into the full story of these. Let's take a look at the first one. Increased monthly revenue 30% or 300,000 a month, and retention 30% for Iron Throne, the Firstborn. So let's take a look at the challenges that Iron Throne had. This is why, they hired us, because they had limited knowledge of what top players were interested in. There was conflicting internal opinions from different departments as to what players wanted and what new content would be best. And players didn't know how the game worked and are not confident with their purchases. And the reason is because it's a really deep game, it's pay to win, every purchase matters. And in these types of Forex strategy games, there's all these different types of stats. And for every game, they're different. And for every game, the combat formula works differently. So it's really important that the players really understand how combat works. The results were that we created an incredible community hub with over 50 strategy guides. Over 75 GamerSpeak recommendations have been implemented. The game has been live and profitable for actually 3 years. Player insights have led to better game design and account for 15 to 30% of revenue and 30% of retention. All right, so Iron Throne is a Forex strategy mobile game that has maintained steady retention and revenue in a very competitive hardcore genre. They've been making $1 million a month now for a couple years, and just very steady, which is very impressive. Steadily profitable game that launched on June 7th, 2018. So yes, it's been about exactly 3 years. As of August 2020, the game maintains 60,000 DAU and a daily revenue of 33,000, with 15 to 30% of that revenue and stabilized ARPDAU attributed to GamerSpeak services. This comes directly from the testimonial. What happened was Netmarble came to GamerSpeak 2 months before they were going to launch their first Forex title. They were coming in late to an extremely competitive market of Forex games from the likes of MZ, Fun Plus, Tap for Fun, and Elex. To make sure they can get an edge on all those other games, they hired GamerSpeak. They actually hired us 1.5 years before global launch to write up extensive breakdowns of all the other Forex games in the market. We highlighted the latest and greatest features from each game that monetized successfully, as well as the core elements that made the most successful Forex games fun. We dug in deeper than even Game Refinery does, and I don't even know if Game Refinery was around back then. But then to continue on, when the game was in soft launch, they said, hey, can you guys get 15 influential VIP players from various Forex games who are interested in playing a three-dimensional Forex game, the first one on the market? Have them play test the game for 2 weeks with an average play time of 40 hours per player over that 2 weeks, and include an extensive survey that covers every vertical and monetization feature in the game. Very extensive. The VIPs had to have spent $2,000 in a Forex strategy game to qualify. Based on the recommendations of those VIPs, Netmarble FNC implemented over 15 major changes into Iron Throne before global launch. One of the most successful implementations was the recommendation to incorporate layers of VIP customer support that were very clear to the player how they could earn it. How they could earn the different layers of customer support. This differentiation retained many VIP players who came from other games that were unclear about how to get high quality customer support or didn't offer it altogether. Finally, as a late entrant into the genre, Netmarble FNC knew they needed a solid community to stand out amongst their peers. Their only competition that had up-to-date strategy guides and a very active third-party community was MZ. As such, they partnered with GamerSpeak to provide all of the same services. So they requested the following services from GamerSpeak: a community hub website, engaging strategy guides, a super user community online instead of Discord, detailed authentic sentiment reports, and urgent reporting. So in more detail, they wanted the strategy guides to cover all info on all components of the game: heroes, troops, gameplay styles, buildings, PvP, PvE, etc. They want us to deliver accurate and filtered general sentiment from the community to all departments at Netmarble FNC. They want us to deliver actionable recommendations and specific improvements to existing gameplay. They want us to assist the Netmarble FNC team to proactively avoid negative sentiment by vetting new features before launch. And finally, to teach players the value and effect of new content to increase the pace of adoption and thus monetization. So just want to say that like this case study has been so good. And these are the types of things like you want to, if you're going to work with us, you want to follow the footsteps and the goals from Iron Throne. So currently, the Iron Throne producer attributes 15 to 30% of their revenue and 30% of their retention to GamerSpeak services. At the beginning of the project, GamerSpeak launched a custom community website with 16 beginner guides to intermediate level strategy guides for Iron Throne in 4 weeks. So the first 4 weeks, first 30 days, we launched website, the community hub, with 16 beginner guides. That's enough to get people, on it, fill it out. They got a lot of content to get going, and then every week we're releasing, 2 guides a week. So within 1 month, the website was generating 500 page views a day, and after 2 years, the site had over 150,000 page views. This game's a little bit smaller, but it focuses on a small number of like dolphin players or people who spend between like $100 and $1,000 a month. So even though the views are not as much as the other case studies I've showed you, these views matter significantly because these people are the people spending money in the game. Additionally, GamerSpeak built up a line room with 500 super user players looking to improve their game. Many of those 500 are VIP players spending over $1,000 per month. At the time of this case study, GamerSpeak manages 2 line rooms with 750 daily active users. From the authentic conversation in those rooms, our team of gamefluencers super users take detailed notes of player sentiment. They often promote the deep conversations on certain topics to provide maximum fidelity to the developer to uncover actionable recommendations the developers can use to make future improvements. At the time of this case study on April 2021, an average of 8 GamerSpeak actionable recommendations are implemented each month for an estimated savings of $13,000 per month in engineering and developer costs. This isn't even included in the revenue and retention numbers. It's not even including the savings of about $13,000 per month. Which a lot of these savings, they come from like development time that is not wasted, customer support or QA time that is not wasted, the proactive reviewing of content, the actionable recommendations, knowing that their efficiency and where they spend their time is so good. This is the producer, Youngjun, and I'm not going to read all of this, but let's just read the bullet points. GamerSpeak's insights into our users contribute about 30% of our revenue and retention. There is a huge difference between internal and external sentiment reports, meaning their internal development team has opinions, and our external user sentiment reports are very different. But the external ones are very helpful, and it gives them a complete picture. One of the biggest benefits of working with GamerSpeak is the Community Hub website and chat room where they create and maintain for our game. The guides on the website help the players a lot, and the sentiment reports that GamerSpeak sends us from the chat room improve our game. Our game design team uses the sentiment reports for certain events, game mechanics, and the interface, and packs. Finally, because GamerSpeak's work helps meet our business goals, it directly affects my personal job satisfaction and happiness. Because we make Youngjun a winner every month because he releases a new patch and it kills it. So he's happy. Okay. This is Ji-Yoon, the head of global business strategy. And I'm just going to take a look at some of her bolded quotes as well. So she's saying she attributes around 15 to 20% of the game of Iron Throne's revenue to GamerSpeak's customer feedback loop and community insights. GamerSpeak's insights are a significant reason we see those stable revenue and ARPDAU numbers, and that is why we keep working with them. GamerSpeak really knows our players, and she goes on to say all types of players, all spend levels, middle and top. And she says we can reliably gather information and user sentiment from GamerSpeak for our weekly, monthly, and yearly plans. How just happy would you be if you felt so solid on your weekly, monthly, and yearly plans for your game? Okay, next case study. The 7 Deadly Sins Grand Cross. We published 225 pages of strategy guides in 45 days. This game is a huge hit. The challenge was that they had rapid adoption of the game, but no strategy guides created by players even 3 months after launch. They had a huge number of requests by players globally for in-depth strategy guides. So they were like, oh, this game's gonna be huge. Players will create this content for us or on our forum. The game blew up. 3 months later, no one had created the content. They kind of basically just rush ordered content from us. And we published, all those pages in 45 days in 5 different languages. And in the first 9 months, we had over 1 million page views. So, the 7 Deadly Sins Grand Cross is a mobile RPG based on the hugely successful anime series. The game launched in February 27, 2020, globally after hitting #1 in Japan and Korea in 2019. The global launch was also tremendously successful, reaching a peak of 3.5 million DAU and a daily revenue of 750K. Even with what most companies would consider a vibrant community, 3.5 million players, Netmarble FNC had thousands of players asking for high-quality strategy guides. It was hard for players to find the exact information they were looking for by watching YouTube videos from influencers or visiting the database websites that provided only stats but not strategies. GamerSpeak had been in talks with Netmarble FNC about building a community for their game before the English version had launched, but with such a strong title, Netmarble FNC wanted to wait and see what sort of community would arise naturally from the player base. This is very common, and I try to caution people that I talk to about the wait and see method because it's not worth the risk. It's not worth the risk because in that first 3 months, there's so many players that try the game and look in the community and look for content, and you can really maximize how many you retain by having this community, GamerSpeak's community solution, built before global launch. And actually, the head of business strategy over there, Ji-Yoon, that I was reading from earlier, she says she really regrets not having hired us right from the get-go before global launch. But it's okay. I mean, the game's still doing very well. In the first few months, multiple large YouTube channels and 2 database sites were created for the game. There was also a strong presence on Reddit with over 30,000 subscribers, yet no one in the community was writing strategy guides. It was a daunting task considering the scale of the game. This game is massive scale, so deep. Netmarble games are like incredibly deep and incredibly pay to win. So, GamerSpeak created long-form, in-depth, high-quality strategy guides for Netmarble FNC using the Fandom Wiki platform. Content covering general info on all the components of the game, all heroes, map levels, team suggestions, buildings, PvP, PvE, equipment, etc. Content to assist the progression of their core engaged audience who have been playing for 30 to 60 days already. Content to help players get the most out of new features and events, and content that would shed light on the hard-to-discover portions of the game. So, these are great priorities for content. Great priorities. So, since the game had already launched, GamerSpeak had to quickly publish the content as fast as possible. Netmarble FNC was incredibly responsive, providing us with assets and game stats that we needed in a timely manner. That allowed us to get all this content up in 45 days. Impressed with the quality and speed, Netmarble FNC requested all the content to be localized into German, French, Spanish, and Portuguese. And if you don't know how wiki platform works, that means there has to be a separate wiki for each language. They're kind of connected, but are also separate. The wiki launched on May 26, 2020 to very positive feedback from the community. They loved it. And the positive feedback is in the form of views. We've got over 3 million lifetime page views now. And actually the peak daily page views is up to 28,000. Okay. This is a case study not on Iron Throne, the game as a whole, but actually just related to our specific feedback that we give. And on the right here, there is a forum post from Netmarble FNC saying, "We will announce the top 5 features that were the most positively received with the update. Coming in first, we have the level 30 Super Pass. The Super Pass system is scheduled to have plans for improvement, including the expansion of the features, coverage, and augmentation of the Super Pass shop. The rest of the positively received content is shown below in the following order." These are some other new content releases that were really positively rated by the players. So then I reached out to, or Netmarble actually reached out to us, and they said the number 1 and number 4, so the Super Pass system and the new house powers that were recommended by us and fleshed out in detail by us were 2 of the top 5 most positively received from players in the latest update, which is awesome. And then they specifically said our highest scoring recent feature release, the level 30 Super Pass, was entirely based on your reports. Love that. We love seeing the power of our super user-led communities generating positive sentiment and increased engagement, and just the confidence from the developers. Just love thinking about how easy we're making their life. So that's just a quick case study. The next one is this OverPrime Discord server so we elevated the official Discord server moderation efforts for OverPrime, Netmarble FNC's new Action MOBA, and grew the server to 3,500 users in 2 weeks. All right, so let's talk about the challenges. They had internal conflicts regarding moderation practices and banning players. Basically, their internal team wasn't sure what the best practices were. The new official Discord server needed trusted, experienced moderators who could foster a comfortable, inclusive community. A few experienced but rebellious players trolled the community, which created tension and unrest in the chat. And there was player frustration due to issues with the custom moderation bot incorrectly moderating bad language, which caused unwarranted banning and trolling the bot. Classic. Okay, so the results were that we immediately set a standard of moderation in the new Discord server and established an expectation of proper rule enforcement. Moderators checked on the server regularly in shifts that covered the server 24/7. We recommended to clearly split the user moderator and content moderator roles. So there were some existing players who were moderating the community, albeit with different standards and not that great. And then our team came in and said, okay, we'll be the user moderators of behavior, really. And then the player moderators, you guys focus on content in the sense of you focus on helping players learn the game, answer their game-related questions, okay? We also implemented the yet another Discord bot, moderation bot, which worked really well. And we submit reports about the health of the Discord server and moderator activities every 2 weeks. We set this all up in 2 weeks, had it running super well. Netmarble FNC created a new, so this is kind of the bigger story now after looking at just kind of those bullet points. So Netmarble FNC created a new official Discord server for their game OverPrime, which is currently in closed beta. Even still, OverPrime has a passionate, dedicated player base because they're using OverPrime uses IP from the Paragon game, and so there's this kind of passionate, dedicated player base even in closed beta. However, they were having difficulty finding trusted, reliable moderators who were experienced in conflict mediation and community moderation. So Netmarble approached GamerSpeak for help with moderating the new Discord to create a healthy, welcoming environment for all players as they prepare for launch. GamerSpeak entrusted their experienced gamefluencers or super users to help set new expectations for server behavior and reinforce server rules. So we actually took for some of our existing super users that have a lot of experience in this game genre and enlisted them to help with this game. GamerSpeak also implemented a new moderation bot to assist with moderation efforts and solve technical issues that occurred with the original bot. Now the OverPrime Discord server has grown to 3,500 members in 1 month and continue to actively increase membership daily. So changing gears here after looking at all those awesome case studies and moving my mouse off my face. Why is the GamerSpeak sentiment method better? You will save hours of development work and millions of dollars in lost revenue by getting actionable feedback that leads to new game content your players love. You will know about urgent bugs right away instead of days after they have been exploited. You will have a lively community Discord server run by trusted super users in 30 days. You can enjoy a consolidated, popular community hub with tons of valuable strategy guides in 45 days or less at a fraction of the cost of doing it internally. And you will feel connected and engaged on phone or video calls with super users who are invested in your game and give you great feedback to achieve your business goals. To continue on, you will be able to implement game updates and mechanics at a much faster and less expensive pace, saving an average of $30,000 plus a month in design and engineering time. You will feel less frustrated about a small group of negative players taking up all of your community manager's time because you know you are implementing what the majority of your player base wants. You will get insights about urgent needs and complaints from your VIPs before they become a serious issue and the VIPs quit your game. The last slide on this. You will get urgent sentiment about your live ops activities so you can adjust them in time to still make money from them. You can get rid of ineffective and expensive projects that don't give you strategic and actionable feedback. You will feel confident that the super user feedback reflects the opinions of thousands of other players who have various playstyles, and you will spend less time managing your feedback process as a whole. And the best part is that you will be able to get up to a 30% increase of retention and revenue in 6 months or less. Yeah. Okay. So our patented GamerSpeak method, our trademarked method, this is our secret sauce, is this flywheel thing here. So it's going to be very clear based off what I've already presented, but first off, the engaging strategy guides and videos give players the confidence to engage more in your game. Then the readers funnel into a chat room where your super users connect with them and strategize with them. Then authentic sentiment is fostered, gathered, and filtered from super users in those chat rooms of other highly engaged players. The trained super users deliver actionable feedback that improves your KPIs and player engagement. The developer reads the actionable feedback, implements it, releases new content that's based off the actionable feedback, and then new guides are created and it starts all over again, and it works super well. So before, when you wanted to build a strategy guide website and have your community manager write the strategy guides, you would have to hire an expensive marketing company to build a whole website and go through extended internal approvals. Then your community manager has to write at least 16 strategy guides to populate the website for launch and spend an additional 40 hours a month writing new guides and updating old ones. But now you can get a proven GamerSpeak Community Hub website and let our team manage a group of super users who will publish high quality strategy guides every week. These players will write authentic, positive content about their experiences, strategies, and tips so all players can learn from them. They will even update the strategy guides as the meta of the game shifts. Players connect with super user written guides more because they are written from a peer perspective as opposed to a developer perspective. A lot of developers, they write kind of like surface level guides from, this is how the game works. But players want to know detailed strategy and how can they really win, not just how the game works. So an example of this is our 7 Deadly Sins wiki that we have, and you can go check this out. It's really great. There's so many guides on there, and hero pages and hero guides and level guides and building things, building guides, and just all sorts of stuff. And this is just a reminder of the traffic and just how much players really love this. As more players discover it, it just gets bigger and bigger. Just a go-to source for information for that game. Also, just everything is just SEO optimized, every piece of content. So it ranks, it's always #1 in Google. I mean, Google pretty much anything for that game and will be in the top 1 or 2 results. All right, so getting a GamerSpeak Community Hub is 4 times faster to launch, 45 days instead of 180 days, and 5 times less expensive. You will save 27 hours a month of your customer service reps' time answering customer support questions that your users can find on a community hub, and an estimated savings of $7,800 a month for 3 CS reps. You will retain 18% or more in revenue from players who do not quit because they're able to find the information they need from the community instead of having to deal with customer support. That 18% number actually comes from a research report saying that players who can find information online are 18% less likely to quit the game as opposed to having to deal with customer support. Before, when you wanted to create a VIP focus group to gather feedback and recommendations, you would have to recruit VIPs to join a focus group on Discord in hopes that they will feel special and want to share ideas they have or issues they encounter. But in reality, they don't go there unless they are mad or they want something to be less expensive, right? But now you can regularly meet with GamerSpeak Superusers who play with your VIPs every day. They have an inside scoop on what VIPs are actually willing to pay for and why, because they have authentic relationships with them and are trusted by those VIPs. You can work with the super users to proactively avoid actions that will piss off the VIPs. Actions or content or packs or whatever. You will save 20 hours of your CM's time a week meeting with the focus group and managing them. You will save 1 month of your CM's time creating a plan and process for the focus group, possibly more. You will get feedback from the super users in as little as 45 days instead of 46 months trying to set up, adjust, and manage your own focus group. Sure, you can get something up pretty primitive rather quickly, but to actually do it legit over a long period of time, it's going to take a long time to set it all up and get the training down and get the process down and get the rules down. So, or you can just hop on a call with our super users that looks like this and have a fun time. And you'll get some reports as well about the things they say, and we track everything that gets implemented into the game. So before, when you wanted to collect issues, ideas, and actionable recommendations, you would launch an official Discord server or forum for the game where you hope players will post useful feedback and important issues rather than constantly complain. Then you would spend your whole day moderating toxicity, responding to trolls, and if you're lucky, get 1 or 2 tidbits of useful information to pass to your designers. And even then, they might not read it. But now you can use GamerSpeak Sentiment Method to get detailed, authentic sentiment reports delivered weekly with KPI-specific feedback that your designers know will make the game more money. Let your official Discord server be a place for announcements and a place to get player engagement, but don't rely on it for revenue generating ideas. This is an example of a report that we send clients. At the top left, you can see where were recommendations made, maybe in a sentiment report, or in the Discord room that we have with the devs, or in a developer call, or in an urgent sentiment. And then you can look at what type of recommendations were implemented on the right bar or pie chart. We categorize them. Was it on event, a pack, a feature, or something else? What days were the reports on? What was the sentiment in response to the implementation? And how similar was the implementation to what we recommended? Okay. Also, I showed you an example of the sentiment report, the detailed authentic sentiment report that's thorough, it's extensive, it's clear, it's specific, all right, and super useful, and your team's going to love it. As a part of onboarding, we meet with your design team to discuss what specific KPI questions we need to answer about each part of the game. Our team of super users from your game are then trained on how to answer each of those specific questions by our staff. This is how we know actionable feedback. Our actionable feedback will improve your KPIs and provide actionable insights for your design team. The super users will introduce these key questions to your community on a daily, in a natural way that results in authentic feedback. I showed you kind of the events page earlier with some specific questions about what moves the needle for events. There's more questions we have for in-app purchases and for heroes and for buildings and for combat. Again, you can download the whole thing on our website. Okay, you will get a trained group of super users paid and managed by GamerSpeak in 45 days versus 90 days. I don't think I've mentioned that we pay them, but we absolutely pay them because you never want to lose them and you want them to take it seriously and professional on contract, right? You will save 40% of the cost for your internal CM to set up and manage the super user feedback and save 20 hours a week in CM time, focusing on trying to get meaningful feedback, which is an estimated savings of $2,300 per month. Don't worry, I'm going to summarize up all these costs here in a second. Before, in order to discover a bug, you would wait for a significant number of customer support tickets on a specific issue, or you might identify an issue from an outburst on social media. Another issue you probably have is VIP players quitting because their CS agent doesn't have enough knowledge of the game to properly reimburse them for an issue. But now, you can use GamerSpeak's urgent reporting system and get trained super users who send you urgent reports about player sentiment, bugs, events, and VIPs. You will understand the scope and severity of issues immediately. The reports will include steps to reproduce the bug and recommendations on how to fix the issue and how to compensate those who were affected by it. First, you will receive urgent reports about VIP players who are running into issues or getting frustrated and might quit. You will know about bugs that players are trying to keep secret and exploit because the super users will hear about them in game or in chat on Discord and the super user Discord server and report them to you directly. Because now they have incentive to do that, and they're looking out for your best interest now because they trust you and they want the game to last. So they don't want these sneaky bugs ruining the game. Right, so you will get a trained group of super users who will proactively report urgent bugs and issues managed by GamerSpeak within 45 days. You'll save $5,500 per month testing and verifying urgent bugs. Your in-game economy will not break from having to reimburse players. because you will stop issues before they become widespread. Your player retention and VIP retention will increase because you will be able to proactively respond to their issues before they quit. We looked at these bug reports. Just want to remind you, this is what they look like once again. Feel free to pause, take a look at exactly what they say. Okay. Before, when you wanted to gather actionable feedback that directly improves your KPIs, you would have to send out surveys to all of your players once a month. These surveys would have inherent bias and generate inauthentic responses. It would take a lot of your time and your design team's time to create and curate the survey, then segment your audience for the survey if you so choose. But now you will save tons of time using a standardized set of KPI-specific questions directly related to your KPIs that your super users are trained to answer. The sentiment reports you receive are guaranteed to have actionable learnings and feedback for your development team, and you can be confident that the feedback from super users reflects the opinion of thousands of other players across various playstyles. Okay, got this picture again. So this is instead of surveys, right? I know it's sort of repetitive, but we're just talking about the alternative to surveys. Your community manager will save 47 hours a month segmenting and creating profiles, getting in touch with players, interviewing players, analyzing interviews, and paying participants with gift cards. There's much more valuable things they could be spending their time on. Okay, now in summary, if you wanted to do everything GamerSpeak does using your internal team's time and resources, it would cost you at least $43,000 a month for 6 months. This is how the cost breaks down to the $43,000 over 6 months. A GamerSpeak Community Hub website, where you're training super users, producing guides, publishing guides. You're getting that website built with the marketing company. And all the hours you're going to save with customer service adds up to about $17,000 per month for 6 months. Then the authentic sentiment reports with actionable feedback that is curated, that's specific with severity levels and priority levels and an easy to read format that covers live ops events and all sorts of different topics. This adds up to about $15,000 per month to get that all going. Then meeting regularly with super users who play your game every day. They have an inside scoop on what VIPs are willing to pay for. They work with you to proactively avoid content that will piss off the VIPs. They help you design a game that meets the expectations of your player base. You don't have to worry about the risks of leaking information. And they will be a positive reflection in the community, exuding trust that they have towards the developers. Also, you'll get urgent reports from them on all aspects of the game, which will save you tons of money in support costs and reimbursements, and build a lot of rapport between you and your players for staying on top of bugs. All that adds up to about $10,500 a month in value. So my picture's big here. So just to add that up again, well, all those three things, I just shortened them here on the left. 17, 15, 10,000 a month, all the way up to 43. And our price is $7,500 a month for you for 6 months. That first 6 months, you're looking at about $7,500 a month as opposed to $43,000. Okay, and to talk about the time again, you're guaranteed to get all this in 45 days or less, as opposed to 6 months, 9 months, who knows. And a lot of times when developers think about community, it's right before global launch or it's after global launch, after the game's been doing well. So time is of major importance for this type of stuff. You want as many players as possible getting the value out of the service. And so the sooner you launch it, the closer you launch it to global launch, the more value you're getting for your money. So we have about 8 spots available as of the time of this presentation for the rest of 2021. We have a guarantee that you will see 15 to 30% increase in revenue and retention in 6 months or less if you follow our action plan and work with us closely. The guarantee means that if you follow the action plan and you don't see the results, you get your money back. Okay, let's get into some FAQs. So, should I hire an internal community manager or GamerSpeak? This is one of our most commonly asked questions because it's usually people looking for a community manager or community management solution. We recommend hiring a community manager for representing your official brand on social media, doing promotional content, doing official posts on Discord or official promotions on new events. However, if you're looking for player feedback that will improve your KPIs, it will be at least 83% less expensive to use GamerSpeak. Also, a lot more effective. If you remember just all that I've described in this presentation so far. And I just want you to, what I see, I think I also want to make a point here is like, I see a lot of game developers saying community is our #1 priority. And then thinking about community last, hiring maybe one person and not investing anything else. And it's a really huge mistake, and they end up regretting it, and the players recognize it. The players, they see after launch the new content not resonating well, no community coming up from for the game, and they get disappointed and they leave. So really want to encourage you guys to, if community is a big priority for you, take it seriously. Get more than just a community manager. The old way of capturing feedback is using Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or a forum as a community where you post game announcements and hope that players will leave comments with good feedback. This just ends up being a huge waste of energy and money because your follower engagement on these platforms turn out super low and your ROI for the activities are really murky. That's just, that's what I've seen. This is exactly what I hear from companies who try to use those social media platforms in that way. So next question, how do you find super users and gamefluencers? I've kind of talked about this earlier, but this can be done in 3 ways. GamerSpeak can recruit from existing official or super user communities that currently exist. This is the most common, or maybe even the second most common. The first most common is that we leverage some of our existing contracted super users who have experience in your game genre to temporarily get the community started. Then we recruit native players from your game community that we build, the third-party one, within 30 to 60 days after the strategy guide website launches. That's usually how long it takes, about 30 to 60 days to get enough people and get enough options of super users to choose from. Third, the developers may have already identified some potential super user game influencers that we could reach out to. So you might already be working with some moderators for some of your channels and you really want to level up your community game. And so, you say, hey, like, why don't you use some of our existing people that we have connections with, train them and get them involved in this GamerSpeak method that you've got going here. And these are the different types of players we look for when we're recruiting: content creators, alliance leaders, very social people, VIP players that are high spenders and trendsetters and idols, and ninjas who are like really smart, top-ranked players that are sort of quiet, but they know the game really well and they're great at actionable feedback. Okay, we're looking for these 3 qualities as most important: encouraging, trustworthy, and knowledgeable, as well as thorough, respectful, positive, friendly, relational, helpful, and intrinsically motivated to play your game. Next question. You don't have any case studies in my game genre. How do I know it'll work? There are differences in the amount of GamerSpeak services necessary for a given game genre. For example, if one game is more deep and with the meta or the content than another game, or one game is more pay to win than another game, but all games need a deep understanding of their players in order to succeed in the long run. Games that fail have initial resonance with players, but cannot maintain resonance month after month, so they die off quickly. Our sentiment, or our GamerSpeak method, is platform agnostic. The methods we use are proven to work because they are player focused, not game or platform focused, and consistently deliver results for clients across all game genres. Waiting for a case study in your specific genre is like waiting to develop a feature only after you've seen competitors deploy it. The returns come from being the only one in the meta that has it. So if you're in a genre that we haven't worked on, we might have to take a slightly different approach, but in general, we're going to take the same method. We're going to tweak it a little bit for your genre, and then we're going to roll it out, and it's going to work really well. If you're the first to use our system and your genre, you will have a window of time to gain until your competitor catches on and imitates. This is what happens. It's actually kind of frustrating too from a business standpoint, but like we'll start working with one genre, and then all of a sudden, because we've worked with the one game in that genre, all these other games in the genre reach out, and now they're interested in talking. Well, what if they were the first person in the genre? Then they would be the one having the advantage. So I actually encourage you, if you see that we haven't done a case study in your genre, be encouraged and like talk to us, and we'll come up with a solution that will make you feel comfortable with your genre and executing this. So also, if you remember the Facebook Gaming Research Report that says players in all genres, basically in all countries, want tips, tricks, and strategies more than anything, that's huge. That just shows that creating the content, no matter the genre, will draw the users in and get them to a chat room of some sort where they can start talking. Now, the chat room could be Line, could be Discord, could be a Facebook group, but we prefer apps that are very easy to chat in and have a conversation, which is usually like the Line app or Discord. So how many DAUs should my game have before working with GamerSpeak? Like I said earlier in my presentation, you want to work with us when your game is ready for global launch. That's kind of like the highest level way of looking at it. We've seen super user communities of as little as 500 players generate incredible insights. Every player that you acquire who does not get to experience the community we develop has a higher chance of churning and a lower LTV. We recommend launching GamerSpeak community as soon as your game is global launch ready. Just so you know, we need about 30 to 45 days of lead time. So DAU, it's not really a question about DAU. It's more of a question about when you're going to go big. And we've even had customers start working with us a little bit into their soft launch, so that we can even get that sentiment early. It just depends on how big your soft launch is, and if you have the capital to invest a little bit earlier to ensure a successful launch and to ensure maximizing your user acquisition budget when you do launch. So just as soon as you're ready for global launch. If you don't want your game to die in soft launch, start then. We can give you a clear path of what your target audience wants from your game. This is what we did with Iron Throne. And then I told you that 7 Deadly Sins, we had that client wait 3 months after launching before they could get approval to bring us in to build the community hub with strategy guides. As a result, they missed out on an insane opportunity for higher engagement, retention, and revenue from their game. 1 year later, that community is generating 487,000 page views a month. We could have achieved that engagement 4 times faster if we launched the community hub at or before the same time as the global launch of the game. Should you build an official community or a super user-led community? Super user communities are proven to be far more effective than official communities in all areas that impact business goals. But there is still a place for official communities. We still recommend investing in an official Discord for game announcements and creating relationships with players. Is it still valuable to create a Facebook page for my game? We don't think so, unless you're just using it for advertising purposes. Take Fortnite, the biggest game in a very long time, only has 5 million Facebook page likes as of March 2021. with between 200 to 1,000 engagements per post. That's appallingly low for a game with 25 million DAU and possibly the biggest game of all time in terms of users or people who have played it. Facebook doesn't promote pages or groups like they used to. It's at one point in time, Facebook was promoting, pages very heavily and Facebook groups very heavily, and they are not anymore. So take this quote from David Logan, a Discord community expert on Gama Sutra. 15 years ago, anyone launching an indie game would have needed to make a Facebook. 10 years ago, they'd need a Twitter. 5 years ago, they needed Instagram. Today, every marketing expert in gaming is going to tell you to set up a Discord server for your upcoming indie titles. We're not talking, he says indie here, but it's relatable to more than just indie. In other words, Discord is the essential social platform that you absolutely need. Will GamerSpeak manage my official social channels? So what we don't do is like promotional content on social media channels. What we do is engage with your. We can act in your official channels, and we can be moderators, We can be player moderators, user moderators within your official Discord, no problem. We'll walk you through our standard operating procedure for exactly how we recommend your team engage with players. And by your team, I mean like your developers, designers, product people, whatever. How do they engage while we manage it? So we just want to take a big workload, off of you and let you focus on the game. But we think that this is still valuable work. But what we don't do is just like, hey, this new update's coming out on making a post on Facebook and Instagram and posting on Discord and stuff. We don't deal with that stuff. I think it's better to just have some internal community manager of some sort do that kind of communication. So because for moderating the Discord, we can utilize the super users that we are utilizing for all the other elements of the GamerSpeak method, and they can also help with your official channels. Does GamerSpeak work with premium games as well as free-to-play? Yes. There are differences in the amount of services necessary for games with different revenue models, but every model needs to deeply understand their players to be really profitable. Games that fail have initial resonance with players, but cannot maintain resonance month after month, so they die off quickly. This is still applicable to a premium game. It's just that premium games are going to release DLC every like 6 months or every 3 months, as opposed to a more free-to-play game that's going to do it every couple weeks or every month. So you've probably even heard of, I think, some games with really good live ops are like literally still breaking DAU and MAU records, or at least getting huge spikes from new DLCs that have good resonance with the players. Like Fallout, I think, was one that was recently announced to just like have a huge resurgence. TFT or Team Fortress 2 just hit like peak users, which is crazy. And I'm pretty sure I've heard of one or two others who, because of the successful live ops, are continuing to grow many years after they launched. So premium games, are still need, actionable feedback. They still need strategy guides. They still need these super users and urgent reports and things like that. It's all still relevant. The frequency might change though. So we can publish our content. Do you translate your content into multiple languages? What we do is we use your translation partner, and then we publish the content on the website, SEO friendly, for that language. So that's how it works. It's the most affordable that way. Will your service work for a game with an international audience? Absolutely. We can localize content as many languages as your game has. Although, just to be honest, our customers typically focus on only English content, or they just localize content for the most popular countries and languages the game is played in. How does your guarantee work? We offer an action-based guarantee. If you follow our action plan that we give you at the start of the partnership and don't get high quality strategic recommendations 90 days post-launch, then we refund your money. Obviously, you have to do the work and show that you followed the steps for the guarantee to apply. However, if you're leaning on a guarantee before you get started, then it's likely that you don't really believe this will work, and it may be better for you to go back and think if this is really for you, or do a little more research before pulling the trigger. We've never had anyone take us up on this guarantee. We've always over-delivered far more value than what we charge. If you remember me making the cost comparison earlier, it was like $43,000 per month estimated cost for 6 months to execute this, for the developer to execute this on their own, or they can work with GamerSpeak for $7,500 a month, which is something like in the like 83, something like 80% less expensive to work with us, just because we have the method down and we just roll it out fast and it works. So yeah, contact me today. You probably have questions, so hit me up and we can talk more about pricing. We can talk more about your specific game, your genre. You can email me or you can send me a message on LinkedIn, whichever one works for you. And thank you for listening to my long presentation. If you made it all the way through, wow, I definitely expect you to reach out. So talk to you soon.